Hello, welcome to another MEF webinar. Today is a very special one. It's all about smartphones and feature phones. So today we're going to be mapping the landscape between the two phones because contrary to popular belief, feature phones aren't dead, as we'll discover. They're very much alive and well and kicking. There's a lot of interesting things going on with them, and also in terms of specific regions. Obviously no two regions are the same. So yeah, there's a lot to discuss. But first, I think I'll welcome our guests. So today we're mostly joined by Black and Green. So we have Mr. Atul from Madan, who's the CEO there. We have Rajit, the vice president, in the same room. And then AJ, who's the product heads. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Thanks, Ross. Thanks, everyone. Fine. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. I like that you guys are all together in the same room, showing solidarity for for feature phones. And then we have Naguvu from Vodacom. How are you doing, Naguvu?
Yes, Ross, I'm super well. How are you guys? And I'm really happy to be on this forum. So really looking forward for the very fruitful discussion.
Exactly. So where are you based now, Naguvu?
I'm based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, is in East Africa.
Okay, great. Yeah. So we're going to be hearing all about the African region in terms of feature phones and also about Southeast Asia. But we'll talk about those later on. So I guess I'll share the presentation. Also, sorry, I forgot to say, this is, we like to keep things conversational here at MEF. So if you have any questions, feel free to you should be able to ask them there on Zoom. And we can address them during the presentation, or we can come back to them at the end. It's up to you guys. But personally, I like to keep things a little bit more conversational. It's a little bit more fun. So let me just share my screen. So today we're mapping the landscape between smartphones and feature phones, as I said. So I guess it probably makes sense to give a bit of an overview about, feature phones. As I said, they're far from dead. Who would like to start us off? Ranjit, do you want to talk about an overview of what the state of things are?
I'll start.
I'll start. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining in today. So today we're going to talk about, and we're probably going to discuss about how the economy, the mobile economy is panning out today and how the landscape looks like. If we see today, the mobile internet subscribers are really going to grow from 4.2 billion to 5 billion over the next 3 years or so. Smartphone penetration is on an upward swing, expected to be 84% or so in the next 3 years. If we look at unique subscribers, they're also growing, but plateauing to a large extent, from 5.3 billion to 5.7 billion. So that's what it looks like. The industry definitely is facing challenges and new opportunities are emerging, and that's what we believe we're going to talk about today. If we look at, Ross, can you move to the next slide, please?
Of course.
Yeah. So the point that which is there is, if we see the smartphones are really growing rapidly. If we see on the left-hand side of the chart, smartphones are growing. Feature phones are slowing down, but they are also plateauing. So the degrowth is plateauing now, and what we believe is they are going to be there for quite some time over the next few years, 3-4 years for sure. 200 million or so is still a large number. And especially the markets in Africa, in Asia, South Asia specifically, what we believe is feature phones are going to play a big role over the next few years as well. So there's going to be a healthy kind of mix of both smartphones as well as feature phones over the next few years. So it's critical that while we create new services relevant for smartphone users, but it's very important that we do not forget our feature phone subscribers who are still in hundreds of millions. And if I just look at some of the industry trends which are there, as I said, smartphones are really growing, feature phones still very, very relevant. Now, there are a few other challenges which we see, at least from VNG's perspective, what we see when we speak to our customers. data is still very costly in many countries. If you see, the revenue pressure is going up day by day. Revenue and profitability pressures are really going up. Regulatory concerns are coming up. Data privacy and fraud management and some of those things are becoming very, very important. It's not only from regulatory angle, but also from customer experience angle. It's very important for the community to be able to kind of manage these things in a way where customer experience is not deteriorating, as well as regulatory aspects are also met. If we look at all these things are bringing in a lot of kind of controlled customer communication is something which is emerging. So we can't just blast to customers, pay and pay kind of things are not going to work going forward. We have to have controlled customer communication, which is going to be very critical. Other thing which is there is, as more and more industry verticals are becoming mobile enabled, they need mobile for reaching out to their customers, engaging with them. So there's a large ecosystem of partners which is developing, which may not necessarily be only from the telecom space. It could be from other enterprise verticals as well. Other aspect that we see is it was okay till a few years back to say, okay, these are the kind of services we want to launch. We believe this is what customers will like. But today, or maybe over the last 4 or 5 years, what has happened is there has been an increased attention towards, do we really know our customers well? And I think that's something which has become very, very critical. Other aspect which is there is 5G, I believe is now. It's going to come up so fast over the next 3 years that a lot of innovation will have to be around 5G as well. And one of the cases which I think is going to be very critical is industrial automation. So because consumer services may not be that impacted, but industrial automation or the large volume data transactions that are required, those are the kind of things where 5G is going to play a significant role. So these are certain challenges which I see. And how do we see telecom operators trying to address these challenges? So some of the operators have gone the media and entertainment way. So some they are branding themselves as more of a media and entertainment operator. Some have gone as mobile money operators. Some have really focused on enterprise segment. So different telcos have taken different approach. Some have taken the hybrid approaches. So these are the ways what we believe telecom operators are trying to address the new challenges which are coming in. Now, these are at the broad level. Now, at a micro level, what is it that is happening? So there are, as I said, there are a large number of new services which various industry verticals need to be able to engage with their customers. So it's a good problem to solve. It expands the business horizon, but it also brings in a challenge of managing large number of partners in the ecosystem. How do you really manage them? How do you really build them? How do you really reconcile data with them? How do you charge them? And how do you still give them relevant customer reach? Other thing is, this brings me to the next point, which is knowing your customers very well. So hyper-personalization is becoming very important. Now, hyper-personalization along with data privacy is an interesting challenge to solve. If we look at, we have hyper-personalized data, if we have that, now, how do we really deliver value to customers? Because it's impossible to make a customer spend another dollar unless the customer sees there's enough value in spending that dollar. So how do we really bring that value to the customers? For that, we really need to know our customers better. Whether we like it or not, there have been instances in past where a lot of frauds have happened. So regulators are very concerned about it. Telecom operators are very concerned about it. So fraud management is a very important aspect which is there. But today what I see is most of the operators use one single yardstick for all types of partners. So either you allow everybody or you block everybody. But different partners have different levels of trust. Right? So we really need to find ways of enabling the partners who are bringing in clean service flow and disabling the partners who are on the gray side of it. So, but we can't apply the same yardstick to all the partners. Then it is also important to understand what kind of new services we should be launching. And typically, we end up looking at the landscape within the telco environment. What I believe is we should also be looking at what is happening in other industries, which could be relevant here. For example, if I see gaming as an industry is exploding. Now, is there a way for the telecom operators to learn from some of those parallel universes and bring that knowledge into their system to be able to create more value for the customers? Other thing, as I said, controlled communication is bringing in a lot of new thoughts. How do we really bring in non-interest intrusive way of engaging with our customers? Because we still need to upsell, cross-sell new services, make them make the relevant services available to customers and be able to communicate to them in non-intrusive ways. So what are those ways? What are the things that can be done around that? I believe are going to be very, very critical. And overall, I think, as I said, both smartphones and feature phones are going to stay. There will be customers who will be high-end spenders on smartphones, but we can't lose sight of people who are still using feature phones because they also need services which are relevant for them. And I think that's what my take on overall environment today is. So that's all my side, Ross. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that was a very comprehensive overview. I feel like we could just kind of end now, but no, we'll keep going and talk about these topics in more detail. I guess one of my questions is, what is the reason for the kind of remaining popularity of feature phones? In other words, what actually drives consumers to keep using feature phones?
Okay. See, I'm sure that there's something which is Ranjit is going to cover, but as far as I see it, the cost of the device, though it is coming down dramatically, but if we look at almost 3 to 4 billion people around the world still live on less than $2 a day. Right. So feature phones, in my opinion, are not going to just vanish because those are the people who also need to communicate, who also need to engage in their business activities. And I would say the cost is one factor. Second factor, I would say, is the relevance of smartphones for people who are not fully literate. Okay, because smartphones, typically you need to be able to kind of understand a lot of things, while feature phones gives you a basic functionality of calling, and SMS also may not be all that relevant, but calling is something. So voice, I would say, is still going to be relevant, and because people literacy rates are not that high, so I would say some of those people don't really need a smartphone to be able to meet their requirements. Third is, I think the telco community also probably needs to look at is providing data at more affordable rates. Till that time, I would say the feature phones are still going to be there because of affordability, because of data prices, and because of literacy rates. So that's what my take would be.
Great. Ranjit, do you have anything to add there, or?
Well, I do, but before I jump in, I would love to hear Nguvu's thoughts on it, because he's been in the game for 25, 30 years, and whatever I'm gonna talk about, I'm sure I probably know ABC, and he's written the book.
And just Nguvu, to prompt you as well, maybe you could talk about specifically the African region. Why is there massive adoption in the African region and the sub-Saharan African region?
Yeah, okay, thanks, Ross, and thanks again, Black and Green, for this opportunity. So, yeah, this graph is not the reflection of where we are. So, actually, this is a blended one, which shows massive growth, and the other side degrowth. But in East Africa, and I think you have said it well, Sub-Saharan Africa, we still have massive number of 2G only or the or feature phones. And yeah, some of the reasons are very similar to what you heard from Amit in the beginning. That is price, and also the use cases, that the reason to make somebody to migrate. However, in a very competitive market like Tanzania, where we have got over 58.1 million SIM cards in the population of 60 million, where over 65% are above 35, between 25 and 35 age in population, you will find that basically the main showstopper or the main blocker is pricing. So still, smartphones are not affordable to the majority of the populations. Hence, they still remain into featured phone or 2G only phones. And the other reason is that almost we are I think we are very democratic, that almost all services that a smartphone user can enjoy is also available on other platforms, the likes of USSD, etc. So, for example, if we say if we could have mobile financial services only with smartphones, then people could have a reason to invest and migrate, because of the fact that there are a number of benefits that comes with the mobile financial services. But that's not the case. It's not the case, because via USSD, all those guys whose featured phones are also able to transact mobile financial services. So for us, I would say we still have over 70% featured phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to go as well. How is you spoke a little bit about features that are kind of emerging on feature phones. How is the sort of gaming market looking in the African feature phone scene?
Okay, now when it comes to those kind of services, it's clear that they want with featured phone they are not enjoying. So they will rely on SMS-based games, etc., which are not having better user experience compared to the featured to the smartphones. So as we grow the base on smartphone, and also as we create more reasons and more services within the smartphone, I believe that we should have a better growth, and that has been we have been seeing that within the recent 2 to 3 years, whereby there is a bit of an improvement when it comes to growth for smartphone penetration compared to what it used to be in the past 10 years. So it's true that they understand that they are limited to some of the very key features, including the rich messaging, the likes of WhatsApps, social media, etc. So all those are really driving adoption, because of the fact that now they see what is the difference between a rich text message compared to the normal or to the traditional message. That's just there's a very simple use case whereby it's like a basic need. If you if you don't communicate using voice, then you have to go on the SMS channel.
Yeah, and sorry, just one more question while I'm on you. How has the kind of pandemic influenced this? Have you seen people? Has it kind of driven people more towards feature phones and also, feature phone gaming and mobile gaming in general in Africa?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, the pandemic accelerated the digital transformations. So if you check what we have been doing in terms of internet subscriptions, etc., as per the regulator, we are at 31 million subscriptions of now. It wasn't like that 2-3 years ago. So the fact that people had to adopt to the new way of working, even to the level of worshiping, that people had to know that, oh, it's possible to worship using virtual method, the like of YouTube, live streaming, etc. And that didn't stop. Even up to this point in time, there are people who are still having that option. Some days they can go to worship physically, some days they can do virtually using live streaming, etc. So the pandemic really helped the digital transformation, and it went all over from education, entertainment, etc. So people were not only working from home, but they were also schooling from home. So that really accelerated the use cases, and the adoption really made people to understand the benefits that comes from connectivity, and the use cases that are really helping on not only stopping doing business, but also continuation while we were still in the pandemic. So there was also an increase in terms of e-commerce platforms and the like, because of the fact that people now could understand that I can order something, whether it's food or on the fast-moving consumable goods, and yet they will be safely delivered at home, as people were really shying away from going to supermarkets, etc., because of the pandemic. So definitely, there is huge impact that brought from a pandemic, and that didn't only has positive impact in Europe or Asia, but also in Africa. So the rise of some famous apps which were not there before, the like of TikTok, it is the same here, and we can see even now we consume more bandwidth on social media than other use cases. So the likes of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok, etc. So that shows that we are going there, and definitely with the introduction of better networks, the like of what Vodacom just launched, 5G network, we'll have more use cases that really are getting addiction and getting people to enjoy the services. So the likes of gaming, which you've just mentioned, Rossi, it's just a matter of time. We are seeing that coming, and as we speak now, with the World Cup in Tanzania, not all the games are being played after hours. I mean, after work. So we are giving also people the opportunity to enjoy this prestigious event using their mobile or their laptops during lunch hour, etc. Because some of the games are played here during lunch hour, and we have a solution for that. Is live streaming via Showmax, which wasn't there before. Now, imagine introduction of that service now is easier as compared to what it would have been before the pandemic. So for sure, yes, it wasn't a good thing, but it has brought some positive feedback when it comes to digital transformation.
Yeah, that's great insight. Thank you for that. And I think as well, during the pandemic, mobile networks were people's lifelines, basically, when, we can't meet and talk in real life. So the mobile networks was pretty much all we had. And what especially feature phones are the most reliable and the cheapest phones out there. So in many ways, they were very, played a key role, I think, during the pandemic.
AJ, we played a key role.
Yeah.
Yes, I can add there a little bit if you allow me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we played a great role, and it was really a challenge. And I think you heard from different sources. Most regulators, they were even ready to issue emergency spectrum, because there was a shift of not only customer behavior, but also locations. So we were really under pressure on ensuring that we provide the same quality of services in offices and in homes. And there was also a shift on behavior. So the peak time changed. The model for consumption from the design point of view, meg per user changed. So it was really a challenging time, but it was in a good manner whereby our engineers were tested in terms of their agility to address this dynamic requirement during pandemic.
Definitely. Thank you again. That's great insight. I want to ask AJ a question because he's been sitting very quietly and very patiently. He's the product head of Black and Green. Maybe we could talk more about gaming. Did what Ngugi say about gaming in Africa, did that line up with what you're seeing in the gaming market?
Thank you, Rose. Yes, basically, we have been, we tried interacting with gamers in a lot of parts of Africa, like Ghana, Tanzania, and a lot of other countries. We have realized one thing, youth everywhere is, crazy about these gaming things. They love PUBG, they love Free Fire, they love, all esports things. So there are basically two categories if we categorize into gamers. There are casual gamers and then there are serious gamers. Earlier it used to be, you have to have a console which costs you around, more than $1,000 and now you have smartphones which are more capable. They are 8 gig RAM and they have good processors and can support the high dynamics of games. So I think that was very interesting to see that at least in whether it is Africa or Asia, the charm is same for the gaming market, and which we want operators also to leverage that in a way that so that earlier gaming was just hyper casual gaming was one part of the portfolio for mobile web services. But now, since you can bring in more the new age generation, which is behind gaming, and you can create products and services and live streamings and sort of create an ecosystem which can not only it's a cult when you play game and your mom and dad comes to you and say, oh, you're playing game, you're wasting your time. But the time had changed. It's 2022 now. After pandemic, we're seeing this that there are professional gamers. If you go on YouTube, Twitch, and all those platforms, you will find millionaires playing games. These kids are 22 years old, 23-year-old. They are a bunch of influencers now in the biggest markets. They're driving marketing efforts for gamers, like all the whether it is a PC game or mobile game. So we definitely see the entire, not only just Southeast Asia, Africa, but obviously it's it's a combined gaming community that has been evolved after pandemic specifically. And as we said initially, cheaper if we go in the cheaper data rates and a lot more affordability on mobile phones. And then when the ecosystem is being built, it is being built in a way that there are microfinance segment which is coming up and sort of providing a device on a smart finance thing, so that there are more people who are buying more smartphones, or maybe more phones. So they have two devices. Maybe there's one feature phone, one a smartphone. So for feature phone, they'll keep it because they want it as a utility. But yeah, obviously the phone, that smartphone is, they will go play games and do other stuff like browsing or TikTok and other services. So we are really hopeful. We really see a big trend growing because the market is growing at a 16% CAGR, which is of course we can't ignore it. So yeah, we will have to be on the if we miss this bus, then yeah, it won't be a good thing for all of us as a community in telecommunication market, and as we providing solutions and other solutions as well. Yeah.
Absolutely, thanks for that. And so how has the sort of regulatory side of things affected that, in your opinion? Maybe Ngugi, you could talk about how sort of regulatory challenges in Africa for a bit first, just to set the scene.
For gaming specifically, those, obviously, these markets, so some of the markets are seeing it firsthand that there are skill-based gamings which are providing some sort of, reward-based mechanism or a sort of a money being exchanged between players in the platform. It isn't bad in terms of, because regulatories are also trying to framework their own sort of policies around these kind of services when these are coming. But it was great when we had launched one of our service in Tanzania, more better service in Tanzania, and we see the acceptability rate, which went in terms of regulatory challenges and all, it was peaceful for us. Obviously, there are some key markets like Kenya, Nigeria, and other markets where we are trying to penetrate. There are obviously some things, but you have license. If you have license, you can always get into those markets, and sort of we're still figuring out the regulatory thing because that's a very complex thing to go behind. But yes, we of course everybody when telcos goes to regulatories and they sort of tell that this is the new age products and services which we are bringing in on board, and obviously they also have kids and they have their own people who are watching all these things and playing all these things. So sort of now we are at a verge where we don't see much of a barrier. It is still there, but yeah, we know it by time it'll yield into good things.
And maybe Ranjit, you could talk a little bit more about. Oh, sorry, you were going to.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, I know Joe was talking about the regulatory challenges related to gaming, but I think the telecom industry as a whole, regulators, especially not just in Africa but across the world, their performance is really dictated by what the regulators do, right? So impact of public policy, regulation and institutions. It's definitely a key aspect that affects telecom operators. I think over the years, what we've also seen is obviously the telecommunications industry itself is one of the backbones of every economy across the world, right? And regulators have also understood that it's a massive source of revenue, for the government. But along with that, I think increasingly they're also kind of clamping down on how often or through which mode that you can reach out to customers, right? I think let's take Tanzania as a market, for example. Back in the day, you had your feature phones, you had even with smartphones coming in, your primary source of communication with the consumers was either through SMS or through USSD, right? And then the number of notifications that customers were receiving on a daily basis just increased to such a point where nobody cared about the messages that they got anymore, right? It's one thing if you get 4 or 5 messages a day, but then all of a sudden when you start getting 25, 30, 40 different messages every day, you just stop caring. So now I think, and it's not just in Tanzania, there are quite a few markets across the world where the regulators are also stopping the number of times you can reach them or the types of services that you can reach out to them for. So this is definitely one major challenge in terms of how do you communicate with your customers. And we don't see this becoming or alleviating anytime soon. They're just going to get stricter and stricter. So this is one thing that we've seen. The second is, I think, more increased fraud management processes are actually being brought in. I think we've seen things, if you look at the user flow themselves, back in the day, if a customer wanted to subscribe to a service, they just sent an SMS and it was done. Or they called into an IVR and pressed the button and it was done. But now you have other processes in place where you have double opt-in, you have OTPs, you have CAPTCHA, you have all these different mechanisms that are actually coming into place to reduce the amount of fraudulent, practices that are in there. Obviously, different countries, depending on the state of the economy, have, different other things in play. I think Atul also mentioned, a major point about data privacy. A lot of countries now that we're seeing in terms of what the regulations are doing, your numbers and everything are completely masked and encrypted. So no matter at what point of the network you're in the journey, even if you tap in, you have no idea of the information that's, that's flowing through. And, Ross, you're in London, so you know all about GDPR, where, they talk about storing the data, in country. You can't, store it on the internet anymore or any, in any other place. So I think these are, some of the major, changes that we're seeing the regulators also bringing in.
Yes, yeah.
And what do you?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so Nungu is also, a specialist and a student of the law, and I know, he's also been involved in developing and advising, the government on certain measures. So I would love to hear, what he has to say.
Absolutely, I was about to say the same thing. Big of you. Could you chime in on this point?
Yeah. Oh, thanks. So I think on that side, I would say that the regulatory environment at this point in time is so supportive, and I think they are really playing now, leveling the playing field. And I think a few weeks ago, we had our data privacy bill approved by the parliament. That's one step from privacy point of view. As you heard from Ranjit, with regards to limitation of communication, of course, the number of SMS to users is impacting the conversion rate as well. People were stopped reading SMS, etc. So I think we are managing it well now. And with regards to the digital framework, billing, etc., there are a couple of initiatives. There's a blueprint, not only on digital framework, but also on the innovation and the startup ecosystem that is on work on progress. So I think apart from smartphone, where we have been asking again to take out VAT, etc., so that to bring the affordability back, and then if possible to find a way how can we work together to really stop the growth of 2G devices, because it's a win-win situation because of the fact that the spectrum that we are forced to keep radiating to save the 2G devices is really giving us high cost. And to give you into perspective, over 75% of voice traffic is still on those featured phones. And we cannot really utilize effectively our spectrum if we don't really upgrade to the higher generation. The higher generation has got better efficiency and hence better services. So I think that is just a matter of time. We should be where we were. We had no VAT for 2 or 3 years ago. It was returned last year. We hope soon it will be taken out again, and the other initiative that will be in place to ensure together we accelerate the digital transformation, that we should really have a decent penetration of smartphones, so that no one will be left behind when it comes to the digital economy and the fourth industrial revolution point of view. Yeah.
Thank you. That's great insight. I was going to ask, what do you guys think about sort of data-driven, big data approach to regulation? Do you think that could be successful?
Yeah, there are a couple of ongoing discussions, and definitely the regulators, they need to understand what the rationale, and they need to do the risk analysis to find out. It's a trading of thing that what are we going to get versus what we lose if we are not going to allow that one. So there are a couple of benefits when it comes to the likes of global companies that have got capacities all over the world, and they should be able really to enjoy those investment from other areas of the globe to make use of the developed and the matured big data analysis that can benefit Tanzania as well. So I understand that they were some hurdles, but it's not something that is really concrete that you cannot break it. It's just a matter of discussion and getting to understand and getting to explain and get them to understand the rationale behind it.
Hmm. And Team Black and Green, are you guys seeing the same in terms of data-driven approach?
Yes, I would agree, and I think that's the way it's happening, and actually regulators are also in the process of learning, so as we. And you see, I'm just recalling some instances. So I've worked with 3 regulators in 3 countries, India, Myanmar, and Asia. Without naming anybody, one of the regulators once said that, oh, if somebody has to opt in for a service, the person should send an email. So that's where it started from. So people sometimes don't really understand or don't really appreciate what kind of negative repercussions it can have on business. We need to control frauds and we need to maintain the data integrity. But it's like using a cannon where you can use a bullet. Right. So, so you don't really need to do that. But yes, things are changing. Regulators have become more and more knowledgeable about how the industry works, what are different challenges the industry faces. And I would say this will be an ongoing process for the next 5-10 years. I don't know for how long, because whatever we have today will not really understand and appreciate all the challenges these regulations will throw up. And of course, regulators are willing to listen now. In fact, they are all creating forums where anybody can join in and participate in helping defining. But other aspect also is, if you see, as the networks became more and more IT enabled, they became more open to attacks from outside. As long as the networks are much more closed, the attacks from outside were not that many. So those break-ins will continue to happen. The point is, how do we evolve ourselves to address those things proactively, as well as address those things in the shortest possible time to be able to damage control.
Great, yeah. And what do you guys think of like the role of investments kind of plays in that? You know, do you think that the level of investment is enough there in the developing countries, or could there be more room for that?
Investments, sorry, lost investments in what?
Investment in the, just the economy as a whole, and in like regulation.
Okay. I think if you see the telecom industry as such is under profitability pressures, right? EBITDA may still look good, but return on capital is extremely low. So ROC is extremely low. So it's in single digits. EBITDA may look 30-35%, but return on capital is in single digits. So that is definitely putting a lot of pressure. Investments could be higher. But every 3 years the technology changes, 3G to 4G to 5G, and it's now 6G work has already started. So the capital available is not that high. So that's where I would say investments can be higher, but I think there is a limit to the kind of investment that can be made. So it's not unlimited capital that is available.
Yeah. And I was going to ask as well, in terms of like the new age services that you guys are seeing on feature phones, is there anything really exciting that you guys are seeing in the market right now? Maybe Nguvu, are you seeing anything at the moment?
Sorry, Ross. I think I didn't get it well your question.
Yeah, just are you seeing any kind of exciting new age services on the sort of feature phone market at the moment? Is there anything really interesting?
Definitely. I think, as I said earlier, that there is that appetite in terms of migrating to new age services. And I think for Tanzania, we are lucky. It's because of the fact that majority of the populations is on the youth side. And these are the one driving for new services. And that's why you can see, even when it comes to our total data consumption as a country, is driven by the three leading social media services. So the like of TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So that shows that that is youth-driven market. And with that, even with the new age offering, it will be very, very, I think, so potential. And definitely combining with financial services, e-commerce, some loyalty program, it will be really, really, really attractive to the youth as we continue offering these services. So I think the appetite is there. And to respond again to the other question that my colleagues in the other room have responded is, yes, there is not only appetite to invest, but there is, I think, reasonable investment that the operators have been doing on ensuring that they provide world quality connectivities to the country. And I think this has been really proven, where recently the regulator had an auction, and all operators really had to fight on the auction to get the new spectrum for better services. A couple of $1 million operators spent. We spent over $61 million, 63 to be specific, $1 million. So that's not a joke. That's just on a spectrum, and you have to light up that spectrum. You cannot just purchase and just sit with them, because some of the spectrum had a coverage obligation, etc. So that to me shows that there is really, really huge appetite to invest, despite of the fact that the ROI, as mentioned by my colleagues there, is a bit slow, but the potential there. I think once the market structure in terms of tariff costing is addressed, and once all the use cases they are really driving the usage, plus the initiative to drive smartphone penetration, we should be there soon. Yeah.
Great, thank you for that. And so coming back to new age services, Black and Green, are you guys actually, sorry, before I say that, if you guys have any questions watching, please ask questions. I don't see any at the moment, but these guys are the experts, so if you have anything on your mind, we'll come to the questions at the end. So I just want to make sure I say that as we're coming to the end of the webinar. So sorry, Black and Green, in terms of new age services, what are you seeing that's kind of exciting right now? Is there anything in fintech or cab hailing that's kind of that's interesting, or what are you seeing?
You know, Russ, I have a little bit, I mean, so I agree with the fact that, you know, new age is primarily focused towards, you know, your data-driven market. But if you look at, you know, the urban population, let's say in Southeast Asia versus Africa versus Latin America versus Europe. You know, if you look at Southeast Asia, you have probably about 75% of the population that's in urban areas. In Africa, that number is probably closer to 55%. So, you know, in my mind, yes, fintech and all these different things for data-driven customers. Obviously, you know, that's how the world, the way the world is moving, no doubt, nothing new there. But then, you know, coming back to the whole feature phone versus smartphone thing, there's still always going to be a market, you know, where people are, you know, affordability that we talked about is a major factor. So, you know, and let's be honest, the cost of a call is definitely, you know, cheaper than the cost of data right now. So you're still going to have, you know, a subset of the population, and by subset, I'm still talking about, you know, a couple 100 million people just within Africa alone. And if I extrapolate that across the world, you're still looking at, you know, I don't know, at least about 1.5 billion people that are still going to be using feature phones over time. And that's not changing over the next, you know, 5-10 years, right? So there are a lot of products which, and there are a lot of people who are still, you know, kind of getting into this new generation, into this new world, right? So a baby has to, you know, learn to crawl before it can walk. And to me, it's like, you know, the first step is you have a, you know, you have a basic phone, you have a feature phone, then you move up, right? As you grow up, you know, as you grow older. So there are a lot of products that are still, and I see a lot of opportunities for operators to, you know, still, you know, consistently generate revenue from old age services that are new age. You know what I mean? So I can still offer, you know, IVR services. I can still offer, you know, SMS or USSD based services. At least for the next, you know, at least for the foreseeable future. Yes, in parallel, there is going to be that divide where digital is, you know, having, you know, taking all the cake, but then, you know, the cherry on top is still voice, right? Because if you look at, you know, the revenue split right now, yes, your revenue from data-driven services is higher, but revenue from voice services has not reached a point where, you know, operators don't care anymore. It's still providing them at least, you know, 20, 25, in some cases even higher percentage, you know, percent of their revenue. So we do have, you know, like say for example, audiobooks. You know, you have options like Audible, you have Spotify, you have, you know, all these different options. But if I'm a normal, you know, if I'm a normal user and I want to still offer that same level of experience, I can do that too. So a lot of those things, and a lot of the things have also been done in the past. If you look at music on demand, astrology, you know, religious, you know, entertainment like Hollywood news, Nollywood news, whatever it is, it's still relevant to this day, right? So my view is, you know, yes, you have new age services, you know, for the digital divide, but then you also have new age services for, you know, the trailing population who are still getting into the market.
You know, if I may just add to what Vinji said, so there are, I would say there are two segments to the whole thing. One is the services space. Second is the technology platform space. Okay, services space, as Vinji just said, is still very critical that we continue to support our feature phone subscribers, because airline may have a business class, economy is not dying, economy class is still going to be there. Okay, and but the important point is the major investments go in technology platforms. That's where operators have to be very careful that the technology platforms where we go in for, are they future proof or not? They should be able to continue supporting that existing base, but they should be kind of future proof in terms of capex investments. Are those platforms open enough for them to be able to kind of manage the transition as and when it happens? So that's very critical. Second thing is, whether it's a feature phone user or a smartphone user, we have to know them. We have to understand them to be able to give them the right kind of services. We have to be able to reach out to them in a manner which is non-intrusive. We have to be able to kind of understand how do I price my solutions accordingly? So there's a lot of business insight that is going to be very, very critical. So on the services plan, as Ranjit very aptly said, it's going to stay for a long time. Of course, a lot of services will come on the digital side of it, which anyways, something which nobody can run away from. But I would say important point also to keep in mind is where do you invest in technology? And that technology, does it really, does that CapEx investment bring you some kind of a future proof it?
Great, thank you. I'm just looking at the time now. We only have about 6 minutes left, but we do have a question. So we should definitely, we don't want to hear questions from me all day. We have a question from Joseph. So he says, regarding double opt-in PIN and all these new regulations, how can MNOs ensure the sustainable revenues to their partners, specifically to VAS? So
can I take that one?
Maybe, yeah, we haven't heard. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah. So definitely, we should be not really for forcing customers to acquire. And I mean, our acquisition should be health acquisition and not otherwise. And that will really result into health revenue, and hence the partners will survive. So I think this is a win-win, not only from customer point of view, but all the three of us. So a partner, operator, as well as the regulator, because at the end of the day, it's annoying to receive a call from a customer that is complaining that he's or she's on service unaware. So yes, the regulation should be there, but I think we need to find the root cause and ensure that we are proactively engaging with our customers to understand what are they subscribed for and why, and we should be transparent enough on billing to ensure that there is no shock. With that, definitely we will have no issues, and we'll be able to get return on investment to both MNOs and the partners.
Great. Black and Green, do you see things the same? Do you have anything to add there, or?
I think, I'm in line with what Nungu said, right? So at the end of the day, so the way I see it is having these regulations in place, OTP, capture, whatever it is, that's one part of it. The flip side to this is one thing that this does, it forces you to market your product the right way, right? Gone are the days where, you just did, carpet bomb, and then whoever came in, came in, and you just kept doing that every single day. And, you just collected your customers. So this gives us an opportunity to properly market and engage with the customer. I think the days where you provided a service and expected the customer to take it are over. I think the customer's expectation has changed over the years. I don't think so. Now I think the mindset is more like, I want you to be me, right? So hyper-personalization is something that, was brought up, and this is where, CBM, plays a major role. So having, a personalized, hyper-personalized, offering for the customer, when they want it, how they want it, omni-channel, support for, content delivery. I think these are all, those kind of initiatives that you really have to start doing if you want to keep your customer, first of all, acquire your customer and then keep them on you and then get them to be loyal to you. So I think that really forces everybody to really think out of the box. I think, for far too long, people are taking the, easy way out. And yeah, this keeps everybody on their toes.
Great, thank you. So we only have 4 minutes left. Do you want to talk briefly about what Black and Green's offering in terms of feature phones?
Sure. So, let's see. I think, in a nutshell, right now we're providing. I'm just going to talk about it in general, not just for feature phones, but we have our traditional services that apply to basic phones, feature phones, and smartphones because, we believe in a 360-degree approach. And, our vision has always been for the telcos to be at the center of the universe because, they're the guys that and ladies that actually, put in the money, right? Like, if you look at one of the slides, the kind of money that they're investing in, network infrastructure and platforms and everything is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. But then, the return on capital is measured in tens of billions. So, and you have a lot of these, OTT players that are piggybacking off of the networks that the telcos built. And by virtue of just, offering, direct billing, they end up taking, the bulk of the revenues, right? And, this is where the telco also suffers. So for that, so we continue to offer services that, span across the entire market because we also believe in not leaving anybody behind. So a lot of services like, audiobooks and, stories and so on that to a smartphone customer seems, like common knowledge, they're not being offered to, other customers. And then in terms of the flip side of it, when we talk about data-driven services, so we're focusing on, gaming related services like Movie Battle, which, we've launched in quite a few places. We have other premium game offerings, like X Games. We're providing, contesting based services and tournament management systems. We're also offering platforms because right now, like I was saying, knowing the customer and, what Atul was also saying, knowing your customer is extremely important. And to us, at the crux of everything. So our CVM platform, which, operators can also, plug into their existing platform is also something that we're really hyper focused on. Because at the end of the day, building business intelligence to be able to predict what your customer is going to do and how often they do it, how much they spend, what do they like, what do they not like. I think that's the nature of the game. And for this point specifically, I would love to hear what Nungu also thinks.
Yeah.
Because CVM to me is yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Nugubu. We closing remarks. We do only have 1 minute left, so you are closing remarks here.
Oh, thank you very much. So I think for us, yes, we have different partnership, but one of the great partners is Black and the Green, and we've heard from them that we have deployed a solution that are cutting across, leaving no one behind for featured phone and a smartphone. And for sure, we'll be looking for more growth from a digital point of view, and that will come from smartphones. At Vodacom, we believe that we connect for a better future, and that's the reason why we exist, and covered by our social contract pillars. That includes digital society. That means the connectivity as well as the solution on platforms that entertainment, gaming, education, health services, to mention a few, if not forgetting agriculture, which is big in Tanzania, but also inclusion for all, that we have to ensure that all our services doesn't leave anybody behind, and for sure do care for our planet. With that, our vision for Tanzania is to lead this country into digital age and change life through technology. So we believe that with the right partners and the right focus, we should be really reaching where we want soon. So thank you very much for this time, and looking forward for further engagement.
Definitely. Thank you guys. We are over the minute mark. As much as I'd love to do an encore with you guys, because we still have a lot of viewers watching, we'll have to cut it off there. But I would love to do another webinar, maybe down the line. We could talk about what the billion feature phone users are looking like, whether they still have feature phones, maybe they bought a smarter feature phone or a smartphone. So I'd love to have another check-in sometimes. But thank you so much. Thank you, Black and Green, and thank you, Nugubu from Vodacom.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. And happy Thanksgiving for everybody that's celebrating.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah. I'm eating a turkey now.
All right.
So. See you guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye.